Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking through a couple player props I like on Prizepicks for tonight's NBA slate on Tuesday, March the 14th. We have an 8-game slate tonight, so a decent amount of games once again on this slate. Good amount of props are available right now. You can see there's a ton on the board at the time I'm making this video. A lot of fantasy score props have been posted. I already got two circled that I really like for today, but I was looking at a few more props that I also liked as well. We're just going to give out two in this video. But as always, guys, if you guys enjoy these Prizepicks videos, you want more Prizepicks plays from me, I do give those out on Patreon. You can check that out, linked down below in the description if you are interested. But we got two picks we're going to share in this video, guys, two fantasy score props. Before we do talk through these two plays, as always, if you guys enjoy these Prizepicks videos, make sure you hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to Prizepicks, if you've never checked out Prizepicks before, you can sign up. You can use my promo code NOAH. If you look at the bottom of the screen, when you sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. So check them out if you guys have not yet. And I do want to recap our two plays from yesterday before we do talk through today's plays. So yesterday was another unfortunate day, man. Felt like we were going to get a win at least yesterday. We took the over on Anthony Edwards' fantasy score, and he had a really good game against the Hawks. That game actually wound up being somewhat of a blowout, but Anthony Edwards, I think he hit in the third quarter, had a big game, and went over his fantasy score. Unfortunately, though, we needed Steph Curry to go over his fantasy score, which he did not. He did not have the greatest game overall. He didn't, have a great second half either. It was looking okay. Like he had I want to say he had 21 fantasy points at halftime, so he was around, halfway there. But in the second half, he just really didn't do much at all. I think he finished with 33 fantasy points. We needed 10 more fantasy points from him. He got pulled a little bit early, but he got pulled with 2 minutes left. I mean, it wasn't like he was going to get 10 fantasy points in 2 minutes anyways. So that was just super annoying, man. Really like that spot for Steph. And you look at the halftime score of that game yesterday. The Warriors had 75 points at halftime. You would have thought, with them scoring that many points, it would be, Steph would have a good game, but it was all Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson had 35 points alone in the first half. It was a Klay night and not a Steph night, unfortunately. So we did not hit our two-pick entry yesterday. It's been a frustrating run, man. I actually went back and looked. The last time that we hit a two-pick entry on this YouTube channel was literally March the 2nd. It's been almost 2 weeks since I've given out a winning two-pick entry. Just, man, we can't fucking buy one right now. It is what it is. We're gonna continue to just try and grind through this rut. I mean, it's been super frustrating, as especially for me coming on here every day. Just giving out constant losing picks is obviously not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you guys good information, good winning plays, and that just hasn't been the case lately. But hopefully today can be the day we finally get back on track, guys. Again, I got two fantasy score props I like for today. If you're a viewer of the channel on a regular basis, you guys know I really like to target these fantasy scores. I've been playing daily fantasy for 5, 6, 7 years now, so very familiar with the fantasy score system, with how kind of projections work, and usually I can kind of spot some projections that I think are either too high or too low. But for today, let's go ahead and talk through them. So the first fantasy score prop I want to talk about is going to be Nick Claxton. His fantasy score line, it sits at 33.5. This is an over that I like. Really like this matchup for Nick Claxton going up against the Thunder. We've seen the Thunder be a good matchup for centers this season. They've been a team you can really beat on the glass. They've been a bad rebounding team. They give up a lot of block shots as well to centers. That works in Claxton's favor. Claxton's a great shot blocker. He can have games where he gets 3, 4, 5 blocks, can get a few steals as well. And with fantasy score, if you're not familiar with fantasy score, you get 3 points for every block and steal. So it's not like Claxton has to put up 25 points and 15 rebounds to go over this fantasy score. He could put up 9 points, 8 rebounds, but he could have 3 blocks and 3 steals, which is totally in his range of outcomes. We've seen him have those type of games. But if you look at Claxton's recent games, he's been going over this fantasy score line consistently. He's gone over it in 4 straight. But what really stands out to me is that his minutes are starting to trend back up a little bit. At the trade deadline, dating back to February 11th, Claxton's minutes were kind of low. They really weren't playing him a ton. He was only playing 24, 25 minutes a night. But over their last 4 or 5 games, the minutes have really started to get back to somewhat normal. 29 minutes against Boston, 27 against Charlotte, 29 against Houston. He played 35 against Minnesota, but that game did go to overtime. Last game against Denver, he played 28 minutes. But I looked at the play-by-play and at the rotations last game. Claxton actually got in foul trouble last game against Denver. He picked up his 4th foul, or he actually picked up his 3rd and 4th foul 3 minutes into the third quarter. So With 9:07 left in the third quarter, he picked up his third foul. And then like literally 10 seconds later, he picked up his fourth foul, got benched. He did not sub back in until the start of the fourth quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, he played about 9 minutes before getting subbed out. So Claxton, I think, probably plays about 28 to 30 minutes here, barring foul trouble or a blowout. It does seem like Brooklyn is okay playing small right now. It's not like Claxton, like it's kind of weird. You would think like the reason Claxton would be losing minutes is because like they have another good big, but it's really not the case. The reason he's losing minutes is just because Brooklyn's fine playing small ball at times. But I still think we're going to get like 28 to 30 minutes from Claxton. That's what he's been playing on a nightly basis. There's a chance he could play more. We saw before the trade deadline, he was playing like 35, 36 minutes a night. Don't know if we'll get that many minutes, but I think we get 28 to 30. And Claxton, throughout his career and since he's been with Brooklyn, he's been a great point per minute player. Since the trade deadline, since February 11th, he's averaging 1.16 fantasy points per minute. So his points per minute are always pretty strong. Normally, if he plays about 30 minutes, he's going to put up more than 33.5 fantasy score. And I think especially in a good matchup like this against a Thunder team that has been vulnerable against big men this season, this is a spot where I think Claxton should be able to be very productive when he's on the floor in the minutes that he does get. And he has already faced the Thunder once this season, and he did really well against them. Kind of to no surprise, had 41.6 fantasy points in 33 minutes. He had 17 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 blocks. And like I said earlier, I like targeting fantasy score, especially for a guy like Claxton, because he can get 3, 4, 5 blocks, and those add up really quick, given they're worth 3 points each. So that is the first play that I do like for today. Is going to be Nick Claxton, more than 33.5 fantasy score. And then the other play that I like is going to be another fantasy score prop, and I want to talk about RJ Barrett. His fantasy score line, it sits at 31.5. This is another over that I like for today. And if you look over Barrett's last 5 games, he's gone over this line in 4 out of his last 5. You guys can probably guess the day that I took his over fantasy score. Yep, that would be correct. I took his over fantasy score on, I think that was Sunday of last week. I took his over fantasy score and, go figure, or it was either like Saturday or Sunday. He had 14.9 fantasy points. He's been crushing lately, though, and he's been crushing without Jalen Brunson this season. You take a look at some of the games he's played without Brunson. He's played 5 full games this season with Brunson off the floor. He's over this fantasy score line in 4 out of 5. There's only been one game, and it was the game that I took his over fantasy score, where he did not get 31.5 fantasy points. But he played against the Lakers. That game was without Brunson. He played 39 minutes, had 38 fantasy points. Against Charlotte, he played 35 minutes, had 39.2 fantasy points. Against Miami, 41 minutes, 40.6 fantasy points. And then against Boston, I think this might have been a double overtime game. He played 50 minutes and had 50.7 fantasy points. Normally, we can pencil in RJ Barrett for pretty big minutes. Now, the game against the Clippers, he only played like 12 first-half minutes in that game. He was just terrible in the first half. I watched that whole game because I had his over that day, and he just did not play that well. He couldn't make any shots. He finally started to get into a groove in the second half, and they played him 18 minutes in the second half of that Clippers game. And then obviously the next game against the Lakers, Barrett played well, played big minutes, 9 minutes in that game, or 39 minutes in that game, had 39.2 fantasy points. Again, he's been great in the games without Jalen Brunson this season. Jalen Brunson is doubtful for today, so he's not expected to play. You take a look at RJ Barrett's usage this season and his points per minute without Brunson. They're very strong. He's got the second highest usage rate on the team, 29.8% usage rate. He's averaging 0.92 fantasy points per minute, so he's averaging close to a fantasy point per minute. And if we expect Barrett to play 35, 36 minutes, I think this line's a little bit too low. You take a look at his PRA for today, and you can take a look at sometimes if you're trying to figure out if a guy has if a fantasy score line is too high or too low, it obviously differs from player to player. So a guy like Nick Claxton, a guy that can get a lot of steals and blocks, there's going to be a big difference between his PRA and his fantasy. His PRA is 23.5. His fantasy is 33.5. That's correct because, he's a guy that can get 3, 4, 5 blocks. And obviously you don't get points for that when you take PRA, but when you take fantasy, you get points for that. Take a look at Barrett's PRA. His PRA line sits at 30. His fantasy score sits at 31.5. That's a 1.5 difference. That's a 1.5 point difference. You almost never see just a 1.5 point difference between fantasy and PRA. So I think that's one of the reasons I really like this fantasy as well. Is he's projected for 30 points, rebounds, and assists, but only 31.5 fantasy score. Prizepicks is basically assuming that he's getting no blocks and steals, and he's going to have multiple turnovers, which I guess could happen. I mean, he could have like 3 turnovers and then 0 blocks and 0 steals. But if Barrett gets a couple blocks and a couple steals or something, I mean, this fantasy score line is definitely too low. I feel like this should be like 33.5 or 34.5, especially with how good he's been in the games without Brunson this season. I think the matchup against Portland is also really good. Portland's defense has been very poor this season. They have the 4th worst defensive rating this year, so it's a good spot for Barrett. His numbers without Brunson this season have been really good. Hopefully he plays well tonight when I finally bet on him. Last time I took his over, he had a horrible game. It was the game against the Clippers. If Barrett goes under again today, you guys can just blame me, I guess, because it seems like if the guy's playing really well, the day that I take their over, that's the day that they finally just decide to play like shit. But really like these 2 props. I like the Barrett's role right now without Brunson. I like the matchup for Claxton as well. I like that his minutes are starting to trend up too. So this is what I'm going to be playing for today, guys. 2 fantasy score props. Obviously, I'm going to have more plays posted for today. Those will be posted over on Patreon. Yeah, I think we should have a taco pretty soon. I don't know when the taco's coming out, but it is Taco Tuesday, so Prizepicks should be posting a taco prop. I think it comes out at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Not 100% sure, but we'll have to see what tacos we get today. I'll be posting more plays though over on Patreon that you can pair with the tacos for today, and hopefully we can have a winning day today. But I appreciate you guys watching this video. Appreciate your support as always. Make sure you guys hit that like button down below if you guys do enjoy these Prizepicks videos. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel, if you've never checked out Prizepicks before, you can sign up for Prizepicks. You can use my promo code Noah. When you sign up with my promo code, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. So definitely check out Prizepicks if you guys have not yet. Use that promo code when you do sign up. But good luck on the slate, guys. Hopefully we can all win some money tonight, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.